What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
And I'm Miguel.
This is our horror highlight series, part of our Oktoberfest event for good old spooky season 2024. This is our video, top 3 moments from A Nightmare on Elm Street, part 4, the most overrated movie of all time. Not really, but listen, I went back and watched this movie a few days ago. I don't. It may be my least favorite of the entire franchise.
It's funny because it's the most highest grossing one out of the franchise.
Yeah, it's
apart from Freddy vs. Jason.
There is something about this movie that just I don't know. I find it hard to finish. Genuinely, I find the movie hard to finish. I mean, it's okay for the first third, but here's what I think it is. We've got 1 and 2, which are really, really well done, like genuinely scary, genuinely just overall all around good slasher films. You've got part 3, which is kind of, it's as we said in our previous video, it's a little bit more theatrical. It's a little bit more out there in terms of the concept. It gets kind of fantastical with the dream powers and all that kind of stuff, you know. And, you know, the death scenes and the dream sequences get to be a little bit more wild and crazy. But in essence, Freddy is still Freddy. I mean, we have characters that tie back into the original with John Saxton and Heather Langenkamp as Nancy Thompson and Lieutenant Thompson. And, you know, it still kind of feels, even though conceptually it's starting to transition into something else, what most of us know as MTV Freddy, it's still kind of got the bare bones, pun intended, because of the god-awful CGI sequence. It's still kind of the bare bones version of what the first 2 were. And then we get to part 4, and you have this character that I really, really enjoyed, Kristen, with Patricia Arquette portraying her. And it's not that Tuesday Night is bad, but recasting Kristen as Tuesday Night, you know, I don't know. It just, the character feels like a different character. Like it doesn't even. I know 100%
threw me for a loop because I totally forgot her name was Tuesday Night.
Tuesday, yeah. They recast Patricia Arquette. I don't remember the reason why. Maybe we talked about it in a purely.
I think she was pregnant episode. Last time I checked. Which
I don't remember exactly why they recast her.
Which would have been perfect for Dreamchild.
Dreamchild, right?
Yeah.
But Tuesday Night took over the role, and again, it's nothing against that actress or that portrayal of that character, but it feels like a different character. Like it's not the same vibe. I find the characters in that movie really, really poorly written. Like it feels like I don't know, man. Here's what kills me about part 4. It feels like we start off like trying to be what the first 3 were, but then we kill off all of the main characters. We pull a Fear the Walking Dead season 2 or 3, whatever season that was, when like everybody dies except for like 3. And then we just go off the rails, and it's just this weird, like the kills are very strange. The character choices are very strange. I think it's very poorly written. And part 4, which is what we're about to talk about now, you know, I don't. It just doesn't stand up to the others, in my opinion. And I know some people are going to argue that, you know, hey, but Dreamchild and Freddy's Dead are like just, I mean, complete like goofball spin-offs of what Freddy was intended to be. And I agree with that. But at least when I'm watching Freddy's Dead, I'm like, I know exactly what this is supposed to be. Like, this is not trying to be what part 1 was. This is not trying to be what part 2 was. This isn't even trying to be what Dream Warriors was. Like, this is complete, as we call him, Bugs Bunny Freddy here on the channel. Like, but this movie was just like, I don't know, man. It's just such a weird vibe, and it hits the halfway point, after
Man, you
Kristen
really were not vibing
and
with this one, I guess.
I don't vibe with this
Like,
movie.
I really don't even
There are
remember what you
parts of
said
it.
about it in our
There are
initial
parts of
review.
it that I like, but I really don't vibe with this movie for a lot of it. So we are going to talk our top three moments. But I mean, what about you? How does four hold up to the rest of the franchise for you?
I mean, I don't hate it. It's definitely like, how can I say this? Like, Dream Warriors felt like we were getting a tiny glimpse of like what we came to know and love as MTV Freddy. But then Dream Master just kind of went for it. Like, we like there's no like, it became not like horror slasher, but more like comedy slasher, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
And I
definitely.
mean, I'm sure for some people that initially watched it, they're probably expecting, horror slasher. But I mean, I knew exactly what we were getting ourselves into whenever I watched Dream Warriors. I knew right then and there we were going to start getting a more comedy slasher kind of thing. Which I'm not saying like the film was funny, but
It was funny.
Freddy was funny.
Yeah,
So like, why not say it was a horror? Why not say it was a
right.
horror comedy? Pretty much. So
Yeah,
I didn't hate it. I mean, there's still some scenes here that like obviously we wouldn't be doing highlights if we
right.
didn't think it wasn't like that good. But I mean, it's not in my like top three, I would say. So,
Yeah.
but it's still a decent film. I know plenty of people still make fun of Dream Master, but dare I say, I think Dream Child is probably worse. So,
See, I like Dream Child better. It's weird. Like I know I shouldn't say that. That shouldn't be a thing. But I think I don't know. There's something about Dream Child that I like a little bit better. But that's for the next video. Right now, Dream Master. Again, the writing feels lazy and weird. My first moment of my top three is equally stupid and weird, but also like kind of baller at the same time. After we're kind of introduced to we're reintroduced to our main characters, but we're also introduced to Alice and some new characters too. So it's like we already kind of have this weird bridge between Kristen and Kincaid and Joey and Alice and Dan and all of the other characters from that kind of era.
mhm.
But Freddy's return and Kincaid's death was my was my first of my top three. And
That'd been my first
again,
one too. That's my
the,
first
is it
thing. Yeah.
there are moments about it that are really really stupid. Like for example, why did the dog pissing on where Robert Saxton buried the bones?
Hmm.
Like what is it about the dog? Like I don't understand. What is it that the dog like we see the dog like bites Kristen on the arm and the dog keeps getting sucked into the like why do we keep going back to the dog? I don't understand.
Hmm. Well,
Why
it's one of
why
those.
does
It's
the
one of those stories that just didn't get like evolved or expounded on more.
right.
So
Well,
it's just there to be there.
and you may agree with me on this or disagree, but it's one of these moments where like Freddy's return is actually really cool. Like the way that we see the bones kind of coming together and the glove on his hand and you kind of see his shadow and he's standing there and he's got that like signature Robert Englund, that kind of like the shoulders dropped, like with the way the glove, the shoulders dropped and he's just standing there like and you see his silhouette. Like that's really cool.
Hmm.
The dog pissing fire on his grave is not really cool. Like, it's moments like that where it's like, wow, they really looked at the writing of this movie and were like, yeah, that works. Sure. Okay. That's fine. That'll be okay. Like, what?
You know,
who okayed that? Who was like, that's it right there, man. The dog's going to pee on him. That's what's going to resurrect him. Like,
yeah, the
who
dog didn't really make
okayed
sense for
that
me.
in the script?
But
It,
still, it was still a baller moment, at least for me. Story wise, did not make any sense. But if I were just watching this at face value, I really
right.
enjoyed Freddy's Resurrection. It was just
Yeah.
how when Kincaid went straight back to bed and he woke up in the trunk and to what didn't really have any connection to him necessarily, but just to pretty much put him in a position of being where Freddy was going to be resurrected.
Right.
So, and I thought it was really cool for them to use Kincaid to send a warning to
That
everyone, saying like Freddy's back
that
and
was the
stuff like
moment.
that. So, and honestly, I thought it was pretty neat that they used Kincaid as like the first death of this film, because I mean, let's be honest, Kincaid was like,
Yeah.
Kincaid was the strong one. Like he was the one that could, like, like he was kind of buff. Like
Yep.
his power was being strong. So for Freddy to just take him on like relatively quickly, just solidified further that, like, okay, Freddy's back, and not only is he back, but he's just as strong as he was before. There's no like trying to get your powers back, but like he's just being normal Freddy over and over. So
Yeah.
I thought it
Like
was really cool.
of anybody in Weston Hills, Kincaid was probably the strongest of them, of their dream powers or whatever. Like, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
kind
would
of
agree.
I almost think of it as it's a little bit of like a Thanos beating the Hulk in the first 15 minutes of Infinity War kind of thing. Like the fact that Kincaid is the very first one he takes down, and then not
Yeah.
even to do that, but to go straight from Kincaid's death scene straight into Joey's death scene, and then straight into like it's just like boom, boom, boom. Which it's
Freddy was there for
equally
some revenge.
he was, and it's equally it's effective, but it's like because it's like whoa, man, like he's really like back, and like he's like you said, he wants revenge. But I also do hate that they kill off Kincaid and Joey after like 2 seconds, because the downside of that is all of the other characters in the movie are just dumpster fires of characters. Like they're not well written, and some of them are the same characters that are in Dream Child. Like Allison in Part 4 annoys the hell out of me. Alice in Dream Child, completely fine. I actually kind of like the character. Same thing for Dan. It just I don't know why the writing in Part 4 just it just doesn't do it for me. Like I don't know what it is. There's something about that halfway point. Even the final fight scene between her and Freddy, which is not on my list, but like that final fight
Is it
scene,
not?
it's not like the whole drama like montage of her like tying together.
Mhm.
I forget what the song is called. I can think of it in my head. I want to live here tonight. Would you just tell me what the hell is wrong? It's on the Purely and Simply Evil playlist. Go check that out on Spotify. But yeah,
Click the link
like
below.
it just I don't understand why those types of choices were made. But anyways, Kincaid's death, very cool. Freddy's return, that moment Kincaid's like running through, like you said, the cars are falling. He pushes the car on top of Freddy. Like there's a cool little interaction between them. And when he screams Freddy's back and it zooms out and it's like he's on a planet of cars, and he turns around, Freddy stabs him. The coolest line, it's one of the coolest lines ever, is when Kincaid says to Freddy, "I'll see you in hell." And Freddy just like pulls him in really close and says, "Tell him Freddy sent you." Like that's such a cool line. That's such an awesome line. For as dumb as his resurrection is, well, for again, weird contrast. For as stupid as the writing was, his actual resurrection
Was pretty
and
dope, and that's what I wrote.
it was really neat. It was
Mhm.
a pretty cool moment, and it was a moment with a lot of weight. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because you feel like, holy crap, he just killed Kincaid in like 2 seconds, and then he immediately kills Joey. Man, Joey likes his women.
Joey didn't have any. He didn't survive much. He didn't survive long.
He
Yeah.
didn't, but I mean, like Freddy knows, like Freddy's in your head, just like we
Freddy
see with
knows your
Jesse in
weakness.
Part 2. He knows your weaknesses. He knows what you really want and what you don't want. I mean, Freddy like knows how to get to you. Man, Joey sees a naked woman and he's just like all in.
All in.
He has
Like a
no
man.
shame, no fear. He's
Yeah.
like, all right, let's do it.
He's a
I'm all in.
man.
Let's go. It's awesome.
Yeah, his death was just equally as quick, and I wouldn't say like impactful, but just surprising. The fact that the writers was just saying like all of these characters from the previous film out. Let's
Yeah.
move on to some new characters. I thought
Yeah.
it was definitely one of those surprisings.
Well, my second favorite moment from this film, Actually, my last two really are both death scenes because after Kristen
Kind
and
of same.
Joey
Yeah.
and Kincaid are gone,
Hmm.
I don't really care about the plot of what's happening with the characters. Like I genuinely don't.
Because it's so muddy with the rules. It
It's
made me lose any type of
yeah. Well,
attention to the movie.
we set up the whole dream power thing and then never really touch it again.
Yeah.
We lose our characters that we have an emotional attachment to, and we
Hmm.
gain characters that are just really poorly written and just kind
Hmm.
of like just you're staring at like they just I don't say this as an insult because it's two different things. They almost feel like some of the Friday the 13th characters where it's just like they have
They're
no
just cannon
substance.
fodder.
They're just there to die. Like
Yeah.
they're just there to take a machete to the neck. Like that's basically it. So I don't really care much about the plot of the rest of the movie. Alice is fine, like it's all right, but I don't care. So that's why the last two are death scenes because at this point I'm like, all right, man, Freddy, let's roll, man.
Yeah.
Like
At
let's
this point,
let's have
the
some fun.
main
Like
character was Freddy, and I
I
think that's the reason why we were there to watch, not necessarily
yeah,
let these people survive.
like I after the halfway point, I'm continuing to watch part four because Freddy is still kind of dope. So,
Yeah.
my second favorite moment from part four is the classroom scene, Sheila's death.
Sheila's death, yeah,
Yeah,
pretty tough. I'd say Sheila's death was probably the worst, or at least the saddest for me, at least because
yeah,
out of all of them, and honestly, that was the one that kind of pissed me off the most, I guess, because of the rule, because the rule was so muddy in that fact. Because at this point, Allison was she has Kristen's powers, but she doesn't know that at this point in time. But Freddy
yeah,
does. So she's using the fact that Allison is sleeping to pull her friends into her dreams.
right.
But at that point in time, Sheila was awake, right?
I
So
I don't know. It's It's
it
kind
didn't
of
make any
confusing.
sense for how Sheila got affected
Right,
into this point in time.
right.
Which then again went back to Nick's death, which confused the fuck out of me too. But yeah,
Unless they were
Sheila's death
both
was
falling asleep in class, though, because if they were both asleep, like I could see it, like okay, they're both in dream world. He can screw
hmm
with both of them at the same time. I don't know. It's weird, but
yeah.
in that moment, like when when she first realizes that she's dreaming, we see like the learning with Freddy thing up on the screen and or up on the chalkboard and the screen, of course. And then he's like he's sitting there peeling the apple with the glove at the desk, which is kind of cool. He stands up and he like tosses the hat over. He's very some of the deaths just kind of feel fun. Some of them just feel like a good old slasher death. Some of
Hmm.
them feel very violating in a way that almost echoes part two. Sheila's death feels violating in that way. Like he's
Agree.
very she can't move. She's in this confined space in like with the desk. Um Alice is like watching all of this happen, like he's forcing her to watch, and he walks up to Sheila. He's very invading her like personal space. He's touching her face a lot and just being really creepy. Like he does the weird finger thing, and then he's doing the like he's like flicking his tongue at her, and like he's being very weird and like very sexual. And then on top of things, he when he looks at her and he says, "Wanna suck face?" She says no, and as soon as she says no, he's like, like he just immediately starts kissing her. Like as soon as she says
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
and that's when he starts to like suck, like vacuum the life out of her, and
That's the
she
scene that
just
really gets me
ugh,
is the vacuum scene of
gross.
that. It's probably the most I would say this film was definitely probably the most special effects fest out of all of them.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of special effects being used in
there
this,
are
and Sheila's death is definitely one of those that really like caught my attention. Like wow, they really put some effort into this
right.
into Sheila's death, and man, just to like have Freddy just throw her lifeless body like back on the chair
Hmm.
just was to add more
Yeah.
salt into the wounds to Allison. I
Right.
was like,
Yeah, he
bruh.
you're right. He does, doesn't he? He just kind of like
Yeah.
tosses her back and she just kind of like falls back into the chair. And the well, and then the best thing is he looks at her and he goes, "You flunked." He's such a
Yeah.
douche, you
Yeah.
know. And then she has the asthma attack and she dies. But that's a cool that's just a cool moment. Like
Dude,
it's a
how
good
mad
death.
would
It's
it
a very
be?
violating death, like, you know.
Because we see that like Sheila just dies from like an asthma attack, which is, kind of sad too, and
Right.
out of nowhere. But
Right.
could you imagine like in real life she just like becomes like that vacuumed lifeless
Oh my
body?
god.
Yeah, just imagine, just do your algebra homework and
Nope.
then the girl next to you just goes,
Yeah.
yeah, just fucking like, yeah, implode. Yeah,
Scar you for the rest of your life.
bruh, that'd be so bad.
Be terrible. What was your number 2 moment?
So number 2 is the one you hate the most, and I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thoroughly liked Nick's death. I didn't mind it. I thought it was funny, and that's where I was there for. I was there for some comedy magic, because at this point in time it confused me more, because again we talked about how Nick was asleep in this, and that then pulled
Right.
him into Allison's dream, which again confused the fuck out of us with the rules. But pushing the rules aside, when Nick's in his dream state, we get him being ambushed by these cheerleaders, only to find him into like a elevator into like a dojo. Because at this point, I enjoyed the fact that they threw hints at little quirks of each one of the
Yeah,
kids,
yeah.
and just to give a little bit of foreshadowing as to
Right.
what was going to happen. So
Sheila with the asthma,
Sheila with the asthma.
what's her name stepping on the cockroach.
Yep. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
Nick being all karate and shit like that.
Mhm.
So what made me laugh the most about this one was the fact that, like, I guarantee you this scene was probably the last thing that they like took, and their budget was so bad at that point that they had to say Freddy was invisible.
Yeah.
Like, they had to go with the knowledge. They had to go
Straight green
with
screen.
they had to go with the skip that he was strictly invisible. And I thought it was so funny to just have like a kung fu, like the Matrix dojo scene
Yeah.
with a invisible Freddy, and only to have Freddy's glove. Like, that's all they could afford left,
Yeah.
was Freddy's glove, just right into Nick's chest. So I thought it was just hilarious just watching that entire skit.
They couldn't even pay
And-
Robert England to be there. It's just
Exactly.
just
Like, I think their budget was just so drained at that point. They're like, we gotta do something.
Yeah.
So for Nick's death, that's definitely a highlight of mine. Especially when Allison was in his dream sequence again at Nick's funeral. It just like opens the fucking casket and is like, or just something like that. I was just like, "Ew."
It's funny though, because you mentioned the special effects, and you're right. There's a lot of special effects shots in Dream Master, but like we talked about this on our Purely and Simply Evil episode about Part 3. Dream Warriors had so many budget problems because they had so many special effects shots in that movie. And I believe part of the reason they didn't want to go with Wes Craven's idea was because it would take so much money to be able to pull it off. Like, I think that's why, like, so, like, even in Dream Warriors, like, there's the pig thing in the house, like, everything in Nancy's house, like, in the 1428 Elm Street house is so, like, it's so interactive, and there's like multiple like, I think they just blew so much money on the animatronics and the puppets and the budget and the like
I think that
dozens
they
of
also
bodies that, like, part Part 3 was like that too. So it's kind of funny that we keep, that's a common theme. It's like, it's almost like, for as popular as the Elm Street movies were, like, Freddy was the king. Like, I know we're all big Michael Myers fans, like, I mean, obviously, but Michael was not the king of 80s slasher films. Like, Freddy and Jason were really, Freddy was the king of it. And it almost seems like, for as popular as the Nightmare on Elm Street films were, they could never keep up with the budget that it would take to really
No, because I think they were just, I think
know?
they were really just throwing everything plus the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah.
And honest to God, I think they probably could have saved so much money if they would have just like cut the Freddy house because
Probably.
nobody really cared about the Freddy house.
Yeah.
Like we didn't like even I didn't really care about like Michael Myers' house.
Right.
So for us to like throw Freddy's house there so many times, I didn't see any reasoning for us to go back there
Yeah.
other than just to have like a dope shot, but at the cost of all the other stuff.
Yeah.
They had to throw that in there. So
You know,
I didn't particularly care for the house, but that's
it's
neither here or there.
it's kind of funny because you that you mentioned that because I don't know if I've ever even really thought about it. Like, is there a purpose for showing? Because it's not like it's Freddy's house; it's
It's just
Nancy's house.
Nancy's, yeah.
Other than for like
Nancy's
nostalgia purposes,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point of it being in there? Like, why do we
Yeah.
need it? It's not. If it was Freddy's house, or like again, showing Michael's house in Halloween Kills, that's different. That it's his house. He has an emotional attachment because he lived in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Freddy did not live in Nancy's house. Like
Mhm.
it was
Which
just
made the
so happened to be the main character of the first movie. And then
Mhm.
it worked in the second movie because Jesse's family moved into that house.
So he got possessed by Freddy. Yeah.
In part 3, it worked because Nancy was there, Kristen was there. After part 3, it's like, why do we need to keep showing Nancy's house? Like, it doesn't really serve the story anymore. Even in part
Mhm.
5, like,
Well,
there's not a purpose
yeah, we'll get to
to
part
it.
5
Yet,
later. Yeah.
yet we keep showing the boarded up, disheveled, falling apart, like abandoned house. Like,
Mhm.
there's not a point to showing it anymore, other
Yeah.
than it's just iconic and it's a part of the franchise, But like story wise, it almost doesn't make sense for it to be there,
Yeah. So I mean, that was,
Interesting.
and then, honestly, that was something that I just caught wind of, just because
Yeah.
with 5, I don't think we showed Freddy's house. I think we stuck with the fucking asylum
Oh no, we
thing.
showed Freddy's. We showed it. We showed Nancy's house.
Oh, okay.
We showed it in part 5.
Okay.
So the last of my 3 is one of my absolute favorite death scenes in all of horror. It's disgusting. It's really, really, really gross, and I'm sure you can all tell where I'm going right now.
Yeah.
But that's Debbie's death scene, which is
Yeah.
the cockroach death when she's lifting weights. Freddy's above her, and he's pushing the dumbbell down, and he breaks her. He doesn't even break it from like her elbow itself. It's like he breaks them like here or here, and it's just like it's again. We've said this. I don't do bone things very well. Like I can handle all kinds of
I
gore
love that
movies,
this is
but
this highlight one too.
bone stuff just it wrecks me. Like I can't. But he breaks her arms with the weights, and then like the roach begins emerging from her body. Like her arms are becoming roach arms. They're just kind of like swinging around, and then it's just like she's becoming a roach. She ends up running down this hallway, and we realize that she is in a glue trap, and her legs are getting stuck, and her face falls, and she's like trying to like get out of the
Like
glue.
as soon as she gets out, like it's
like it would have been.
Face.
It would have been bad enough if she was just a human stuck in the glue trap. Like it was like a reversal of like, oh, we do this to animals and to insects, and that that would have been awful in and of itself. But A, to have her in the glue trap, B, to have her turning into a roach, and then C, to make it even worse, the thing turns and you see Freddy's eye. He's like holding the glue trap up to his eye and looking at it and laughing. And you see like the Roach Motel thing on the side. And he says, you can check in, but you can't check out. And then he squashes
That
it
famous
in his
Eagle
hand,
song. Yeah.
and it all like oozes out onto Freddy's hand like that. It is one of the absolute nastiest death scenes in horror history, but it's a good
It
one.
is.
It's well done.
And I think that
it achieves its goal of being nasty. 100%.
Yeah. And I think that whole like 15-20 minutes of her death, also including Allison and Dan trying to get to her, was
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
those
yeah.
like moments where like it really caught. That was like a cool little plot twist for me, where like she kept going, trying to like meet up with Dan, say something's wrong, get in the truck, and then speed off, but
Right.
then only to circle right back around, and then to the point where Allison like realizes that she's in a dream and it's just like a loop. And
Yeah.
I thought like that plus um the cockroach death scene was my third favorite scene as well, because just how helpless it can feel to know that
Yeah.
you are rushing to do this, you're rushing to save your friend, but
Yeah.
you're just going in a circle like a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah. So for you, it was almost like the plot twist thing of Dan and Alice trying to get to Debbie rather than
Hmm.
the actual cockroach part.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing about that though is again, I mean at this point we're just
rules
tossing the rules
rules
out
made
the
no
way.
sense.
Like we're
They
we're
make
talking,
fucking zero
but you
sense.
have to admit it kind of
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense the way.
Yeah.
Like I don't fully. It's cool, like the concept of them being in this like time loop where, like when she goes like, "Oh my god," and she realizes that they're just doing the same thing in circles. Like after they
Mhm.
leave the diner, it's like, but how it? I don't understand. Are they both asleep? Is this the because they're trying to get to
Because
her
they fall asleep
in
like
the
in the truck and then
yeah, like
crash into a tree.
I don't understand
Yeah.
exactly like how that is happening. But again, hey, I mean it's just like, it's like
Belief is
Philip
suspended. Yeah.
it's like Philip walking through the doors, the locked doors in Weston Hills in part 3
Hmm.
when when he's got the tendon puppet thing. Like
Yeah.
apparently Freddy can just manipulate things in the real world if you're
Hmm.
dreaming now.
Yeah.
Like he shouldn't like even if he was sleepwalking and Freddy was killing him in his dream, he still shouldn't have been able to just like
Morphing through the door.
transparently walk
Yeah.
through locked double doors.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's that's the thing about 4, 5, and 6 is really the last 4 films in the franchise of the original franchise, not counting New
I think just
Nightmare
with
or Freddy versus Jason. But those last 4, you just kind of have to be like, all right,
Freddy can do anything.
okay.
Pretty
Like
much. Like,
we are just reinventing the rules every single
yeah.
movie. And who
Yes.
cares if the last movie did it? We're doing this.
Honest to
know?
God, and frankly, it got so annoying to me to the point where it stopped being annoying. If that makes
That's
sense. It
fair.
was like
That's fair. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't care. I don't
Right.
care about the rules right now. Let's
Yeah.
see what Freddy can do now, because with Michael, he's pretty one dimensional because he just kills and he can't
Right.
die. Same with Jason. He can't die and he just kills. And same with Ghostface. He's just a slasher. He can't kill. I think the reason why Freddy just felt so much fun is because we don't know what he can do. Like
Yeah.
he's almost
The possibilities are endless of what it
endless.
can be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it made Michael more and more interesting, knowing that oh shit, he could do this or he could do this, but it
Right.
felt still within reality to some degree. Same with
Yeah. He's
Jason.
still a human being,
Yeah. And yes, Jason is a zombie or fucking haunted or blah 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 blah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
But when it came with like Freddy, like we know he's a fucking demon or
Yeah.
a killer or like a dream killer or something like this. This went beyond
Mhm.
reality, and I was
It did.
completely okay with that whenever we started getting with all the rule bending and stuff like that, because in reality,
Yeah.
when dreams, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
The dream master is what we kept referring to.
Yeah.
Like you could do whatever you want in the dreams. So
Yeah. This movie is not the master of this franchise. I can tell you that. I don't know.
Pretty-
I've said that Dream Warrior, like and it has my opinion on Dream Warriors fluctuates. Sometimes I watch Dream Warriors and I'm like, this is really all right. Like this is not I enjoy it. I do. I think it's a good movie. It's one of my favorites it's in my top 3 favorite of the franchise. But there are some things about Dream Warriors where I'm like, that's just shit. Like, why did they do that? Like, that's so dumb.
Mhm.
But then I watched part 4 and I'm like, man, this makes Dream Warriors look great. And I really do. I think part 5 is better than part 4. I just do. I enjoy it more. I enjoy the characters more. I think the story is more fleshed out and well written. So I'm actually looking forward to talking about part 5.
Yeah.
And a little preview for that next video. One of my favorite moments is actually a moment that I guarantee you we are not going to have the same thing. And it's probably going to be,
The dream child?
I may have people in the comments telling me that it's lame that I threw this moment in there, but there's a reason why, and I'll explain that once we get to that video. So listen, let us know your thoughts on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, in the comments below. Do you like this movie? Do you kind of agree that this movie just absolutely tanks after the first third, after Kincaid and Joey and Kristen are gone? What are your thoughts? What are your top 3 moments from part 3 or part 4, 3, 4, 5, 12, 26? I don't know. But let us know your top 3 moments from this film. This is the 4th part in a whole series we're doing in our Oktoberfest event, September through October. We're looking at all of the Elm Streets, all of the Halloweens. We're talking our top 3 moments. We're going to throw some other films in there too, plus our live streams and vlogs and all of that stuff. And, so it's going to be a good time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You have the notification bell clicked, all of that crap that YouTubers say at the end of their thing that we typically don't say, but I'm saying it right now. Make sure you have all that stuff because there is a lot of new content coming to the channel that we're pretty stoked about. So be sure to leave this one a like. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at LTM Podcast KY. Be sure to join the Facebook group using that link, title, whatever. Type that into Facebook. It'll take you there. Take you there, as I said in our last video. And have a good one, guys. Happy spooky season. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Yeah, dream child.
Come back for Elm Street 5, which is far superior to part 4. Bye.